This is my review for The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 21, Diverged. Now, this is the 5th of the 6 additional episodes AMC have decided to give us this year because of the pandemic. Everything got delayed. And later on this year, we'll get to see the final season of The Walking Dead, which will be split up into 3 parts for Season 11. But these episodes have been interesting. Last week's episode I wasn't too big of a fan of with Princess and Ezekiel and Eugene and Yumiko, but this episode, I could see people hating this episode, but I think it will be a little bit better received because it's with two of the OG characters, two characters that we really love in The Walking Dead. Now, the plot for this episode is Daryl and Carol come to a fork in the road and head their separate ways, each going into their own type of survival mode. The easiest of challenges become much harder. Now, not much happened in this episode. There's no real spoilers. Nobody died. There's not big monsters coming on the way or bad guys, threats, any of that kind of stuff. It's more of an episode of like, let's just spend a day with these characters. And you know what? I actually enjoyed it. It's very therapeutic. Just to spend a day with Daryl Dixon or Carol and just chill with them and see what they're up to. And I liked it. I really did. Even though last week's episode, not much happened. I just didn't like the direction, the camera style, stuff like that. I just didn't like some of the choices they made in the storytelling. But here it's a very laid back episode. And I was just sitting there, I was just chilling, I was watching it. I wasn't like really invested into what was happening or anything because not much happened. But I was sitting there, I was watching it, and I was just enjoying it. I probably could have watched another hour of just watching Carol make soup and Daryl trying to get stuff to fix his bike. Because it was just one of those episodes where I've been with these characters for over a decade now. I've watched them year after year. I'm just comfortable with them. It's like watching your family members or being with your family members. You're just there and you're chilling with them. And I really liked it. This episode only had 3 characters. It had Carol, Daryl, and Jerry, of course. My man Jerry, very funny character. And Dog. Dog was a big character. Could I say that Dog was the best character in this episode? He had a lot of screen time, and I think he did a pretty good job. And actually, Dog has been in 3 episodes, I think, this season so far, so he's getting a lot of screen time. And it's actually a good character to have in the show, Dog. Everyone loves dogs, mostly, and it's good. Hopefully we get to see more of them in Season 11 as well. But yeah, so look, Daryl and Carol, they're having a tough time with each other. Look, their relationship is falling. It really is, but we know it's going to be resolved because they have their own spin-off show coming in 2022, I think, or 2023. The two of them going off and having their own adventure. I think they're going to go to Mexico, maybe try and look for Rick, and maybe Daryl's girlfriend to try and look for her as well. So loads of possibilities with that spin-off show. I'm sure it will be good. Yeah, but their relationship isn't too good right now. And Daryl still kind of has a vendetta against Carol because of what happened to Connie. And Carol was on a ruthless path to kill the Whisperers, which she actually achieved with the help of Negan. She got rid of the Whisperers and she defeated them, but Daryl holds her responsible for what happened to Connie, and Connie is still missing, and we haven't seen her since I think last season, where she is picked up by the guy that met Michonne. So it's interesting to see where that storyline will go. But yeah, Diverged means they're going their different directions. So Daryl's off kind of doing his own thing, looking for supplies, maybe looking for his old girlfriend, maybe signs of Rick and stuff like that. And Carol decides to go back to Alexandria, and you can see with Carol, she's kind of breaking down. Things are getting bad again for her because throughout the seasons of The Walking Dead, she has been a badass. She's done some pretty effed up things to protect the people that she loves. But then there's always the downtime, the time where she has no motivation. Like now, she's not got anything to fight towards right now. There is no threat, so she's just living day to day. And this is where Carol kind of gets a little bit, I would say, depressed. And that could be relatable to a lot of people because when you're busy with work, school, sports, whatever, your mind's taken off things. But then when you have downtime and you're left alone with your thoughts, you can get a little bit depressed and a little bit sad. And that's kind of what goes on with Carol here. And you do feel bad for her as a character, definitely. She wants something to do. She kind of is kind of annoying Jerry. Jerry's trying to do his work as well. And he's trying to make conversation, make jokes, tell stories. But then asks Jerry, is there anything I can do, But Carol gets into her head to go off and make soup. So she has her own journey making soup there in Alexandria. And Dog makes an interesting choice. Instead of going with Daryl, the dog goes with Carol. So that was interesting right along there. Maybe the dog knew that Carol needed some company, and that was pretty cool there as well. But Daryl's off doing his own thing, and his bike kind of runs out of diesel or oil. I think one of the parts of the bike breaks. He needs to find a replacement, so he goes to scraps of cars to try and find something to fix the bike. Nothing in car number 1, nothing in car number 2. Comes across a car then that has a walker in it. Walker's probably been there for a pretty long time, and Daryl has to get underneath the car to get the piece of equipment he needs for the bike. But it's funny because the car is kind of lopsided, so the walker, if he goes to the back of the car will fall on top of Daryl, and Daryl's trying to tell the walker to move, go to the front, you're stop moving and stuff like that. So the walker kind of helped Daryl there, and Daryl thanked the walker for its help. So that was a pretty funny scene there, and Daryl goes back to fix his bike, and he realizes that he needs a knife, of course, to cut a bit up to try and put it all together, and he realizes that he gave his knife to Carl. So maybe that's an indication there that those two characters need each other. No, they do need each other in some aspects, they can't fight forever, but in this episode they're not on talking terms. So Daryl has to go look for a knife, and he comes across a lot of walkers. He looks and he sees that one of the walkers is wearing a military outfit, so that means he probably has a knife. He goes to the trouble of getting the knife, and there's walkers everywhere, and he manages to finally get the knife, and he nearly dies. Daryl nearly dies, but he gets out of it unscathed. But when he goes back to fix his bike, pretty funny moment here, there's 2 walkers who are military soldiers as well on the ground. I don't even know if they have their legs or not, but they're crawling on the ground, and those guys would have knives as well. So Daryl could have just killed the 2 walkers that are on the ground instead of going for the one which was the hardest to get, and those guys had knives as well. And they also had some food as well, some supplies, some bullets I think as well. So it wasn't too bad for Daryl, but it was funny that he went to the trouble of getting the knife off the walker that was surrounded by other walkers when he could have just had the ones that were beside him on the ground. So that was cool. He fixes the bike. He heads back to Alexandria, and that's kind of what Daryl's story is of the episode. But Carol is more of a complicated story in this one. She's trying to make soup. She goes out to get more ingredients into the wild outside Alexandria. She comes across a lot of walkers. She kills the walkers, and yeah, she's going through a lot. And you can see that she's mentally breaking down. She really is, and she kind of has a rivalry in this episode of a rat that's inside the building while she's trying to cook her food, cook her soup, make her soup. The rat's making noise, it's annoying her. She's trying to sleep, the rat's making noise, it's annoying her. She goes down then to try and investigate and get rid of the rat. And the rat is behind a wall. He made a hole for himself and he's inside the wall. And Carol decides to break down the entire wall. So, look, she's a troubled character. She's done a lot of stuff throughout the show The Walking Dead, and it's hard to see her like this. But by the end of the episode, Jerry comes across her and is like, look, if Ezekiel was here, he'd know exactly what to say to you. And I'm sure he has a saying for it. And Carol's like, what would you say? So Jerry does help Carol in the end. They hug each other, and Jerry makes everything okay, and Carol feels a little bit better. She says, yesterday I had a bad day. So it's good, because we all have bad days, and it's cool to see one of the characters that we admire and have watched for over a decade have a bad day, and to see her overcome it, because Carol is strong. She is. And Daryl even says earlier on in the episode when Carol goes, we don't have much food, we didn't get much. Daryl's very positive. We'll get through it. We always do. We always make something. And that's a good kind of indication of Carol as a person. And as people as well, because you have trouble in your life, you overcome it. And Carol had a bad day. She overcomes it. She makes her soup, and she's able to give it to Jerry. She comes across Daryl at the end of the episode. The two of them have a conversation, kinda. It's kind of like when you fight with somebody, but you don't want to talk about what you fought over. You're just kind of being civil towards each other. And that's what Daryl and Carol were doing right there. And I just wanted them to hug. I wanted them to embrace each other and say sorry or something like that, But I think that's just their way of doing it. They're never going to be hugging each other and saying I'm sorry and stuff like that. It's just they're very troubled characters with troubled pasts. They're going through a lot, and it's hard for them to embrace each other right now. But I'm sure eventually they will be able to. And and the rat eventually leaves on its own accord. So this episode was pretty good because there was a lot of symbolism like that with the rat, with Dog going with Carol, with Daryl as well, with the knife. There was loads of things like that I actually thought were very interesting, and Daryl tells Carol to keep the knife in the end as well. So this episode, it wasn't terrible. I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time just watching the two characters have a day in the life of The Walking Dead. And of course there wasn't that much walkers because of course with COVID, but there was a few, and I think they did a pretty good job with the restrictions that they're under. Now some of the camera shots are very far back, especially when Daryl, but I think because when they went back to shoot these episodes during the pandemic, still the pandemic, but COVID was pretty much still high. Well, it is still high right now, but a lot of studios and production teams didn't really know how to shoot with COVID. But now I think when they go back for season 11, which they're back right now, they'll be able to manage it a little bit better because they were going back and it was a learning curve. They were shooting with COVID, always there as well, so it was a learning curve for the directors, for the writers, for the production team, for the actors to realize how do we actually shoot in a safe environment. So I think this is one of the episodes where you can definitely see that, but I'm sure in season 11 it's all 100% okay. And I'm sure next week there won't be any trouble with that whatsoever because Jeffrey Dean Morgan and his wife, they live with each other, they've been around each other for a long time, so I'm sure when they were shooting their scenes they were able to be closer together. So I'm looking forward to that next week. Here's Negan's storyline. But this episode I actually enjoyed a big time. I thought there's a lot of symbolism, definitely a lot of stuff you could pick out. I think the rat means something that you could dig deeper with. That knife, with dog as well, the soup, the rock, all that kind of stuff. You could definitely dig deeper, and the breaking down of the wall as well. But guys, episode 21 of season 10, episode 5 of the additional episodes, Diverged. I enjoyed it. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts on this episode. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Give it a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss all the new videos that I put up. Looking forward to next week's episode already. Here's Negan's storyline. Should be badass with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but make sure you don't miss out on that review. Come back right here and we'll discuss it all. Okay guys, I'll catch you later. Enjoy. Follow me on all the socials. That stuff was in the end credits. And play.